Eli Turner woke before dawn, the heavy quiet of his small farmhouse pressing in on his chest like a stone. Outside, the world was still and gray, a faint mist curling over the bare fields. He sat at the kitchen table, turning a chipped coffee mug in his rough, calloused hands, listening to the shallow breaths of his sleeping son in the next room. Each sound was a reminder of the battle they were fighting and losing. His eyes wandered to the framed photograph on the wall. Sam, 8 years old, his brown hair falling into his bright eyes, standing tall beside their Mustang, Chance. The boy's smile was wide, toothy, pure. The horse's head bent gently toward him, a single dark ear flicking forward as if he was listening to secrets only a boy could tell. That picture was taken last spring, before the coughing fits, before the hospital visits, before words like chronic and untreatable had invaded their lives. Eli closed his eyes. He could still remember the doctor's voice, steady but unyielding, after the latest round of tests at County General. "Mr. Turner, the new treatment has had remarkable results, but it's expensive. Insurance won't cover it, I'm sorry. Without it, I just can't promise anything for Sam." He had listened quietly, hands clenched, his mind racing through numbers. Savings already gone. Debts piling up, the mortgage threatening to swallow the farm. There was no miracle coming, no hidden stash. Just the truth staring him down like a loaded gun on the table. Sam's illness had changed everything. School was a memory now, replaced by long days in bed, endless tablets, careful meals, and the dull ache of exhaustion that clung to the boy's frame. Yet, through it all, one thing kept Sam's eyes shining. Their Mustang, Chance. Every morning, even when he was weak, Sam insisted on helping feed and brush the horse, whispering dreams of wide-open races and wild adventures. Chance wasn't just a horse. He was family. He was hope. Eli watched as the first rays of sun broke through the window, lighting up the dust in the air. He heard the boards creak in the hallway, then soft footsteps. Sam appeared, small and pale in his faded pajamas, his thin face lighting up when he saw his father. "Morning, Dad," Sam whispered, voice raspy but determined. "Morning, buddy," Eli said, forcing a smile. "You hungry?" Sam shook his head, eyes darting toward the barn, where Chance would be stamping and waiting for his breakfast. Eli's heart twisted. He poured cereal, though he knew the boy would barely touch it. Some things were habit. Some things gave comfort. "Can I go see Chance before my medicine?" Sam asked. Eli hesitated. The doctor's warnings rang in his ears, but he nodded, unable to deny the one thing that made Sam smile. The cold air bit at their skin as they walked to the barn, Eli steadying Sam with a gentle hand. Chance greeted them with a soft nicker, the big Mustang's breath billowing in the morning chill. The boy's face lit up, color returning to his cheeks as he pressed his forehead to the horse's muzzle. "Hey, boy," Sam murmured. "We're gonna ride again soon, just you wait." Eli swallowed hard. He looked away, tears threatening. That afternoon, after Sam had fallen asleep, Eli sat on the porch, staring out across the fields. The answer gnawed at him, horrible, desperate, but the only one left. He picked up the phone, dialing a number he'd memorized weeks ago, but hoped never to use. "Donovan Race Academy," a crisp voice answered. Eli's throat tightened. "Yeah, this is Eli Turner. You said you were interested in my Mustang, Chance." There was a pause. "Absolutely. We'd love to see him. Bring him by tomorrow if you can." Eli hung up, the finality of the decision hitting him like a blow. That night, he sat by Sam's bed, listening to the soft hiss of the oxygen tank. He couldn't sleep. He watched his son's chest rise and fall, every breath a small miracle, every cough a jagged reminder of time slipping away. When the sun rose, Eli went to the barn alone. Chance stood in his stall, ears pricked, eyes bright. Eli stroked the horse's neck, voice breaking. "I'm so sorry, boy," he whispered. "You deserve better. But Sam, he's all I have. Please understand." Packing up Chance's halter and lead rope felt like betrayal. He hitched the old trailer to his truck, moving through the motions like a man in a trance. Sam watched from the window, confusion creasing his brow. "Where are you going, Dad?" Eli couldn't meet his eyes. "Just to town, son. I'll be back soon." He drove in silence, every bump in the road rattling his bones. His hands clenched white-knuckled on the steering wheel. The academy was bustling when he arrived. Sleek horses and shiny trucks everywhere. Mr. Donovan himself came out to greet him, sharp-eyed, his handshake firm. Eli unloaded Chance, watching as the horse shied away, nostrils flaring at the unfamiliar scents. "He's got spirit," Donovan remarked, studying the Mustang with an appraising eye. "But he's gentle, too. I see why you kept him so long." Eli nodded, unable to trust his voice. "Why sell him now?" Donovan asked. Eli hesitated. "Family reasons," he managed. Donovan looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "We'll take good care of him, Mr. Turner. I promise." The paperwork felt like a death sentence. When it was done, Eli pressed his hand to Chance's muzzle one last time. "Be good, boy. Please." He climbed into his truck, heart breaking, and drove home alone. As the farmhouse came into view, Eli saw Sam waiting on the porch, eyes searching for Chance. The hardest choice had been made, but Eli knew the pain was only beginning. Sam waited on the porch until the last glimmer of sun faded into dusk, his thin hands gripping the rail so tightly his knuckles turned white. Eli parked the old truck and got out slowly, his eyes avoiding the empty trailer behind him. For a long moment, neither spoke. The air between them was thick with unasked questions, heavy with grief. Sam's voice trembled, almost a whisper. "Where's Chance?" Eli felt the weight of his own words before they left his mouth. He knelt in front of his son, searching Sam's face, desperate for the right words. But none seemed right. None seemed fair. "Son, I had to let him go," Eli managed, each syllable fighting its way out. "We needed the money for your medicine, for your treatment. I'm so sorry." Sam's eyes filled with tears that shimmered in the porch light. He shook his head, lips pressed together, not wanting to cry but powerless to stop. Eli reached for him, wrapping him in a trembling embrace. The boy's body shook with silent sobs. That night, the house felt colder than ever. Sam refused to eat dinner. He barely touched his water. Eli listened to the sounds of his son's sorrow, a stifled cry, a long sigh, the soft thud of a pillow thrown across the bed. The empty stall in the barn echoed in his mind, a hollow space where laughter and hope used to live. The next morning, Eli tried to act normal. He fixed breakfast, he opened the curtains, he fed the chickens, but every task felt meaningless. Sam sat at the table, listless, pushing scrambled eggs around his plate. "Sam," Eli said quietly, "I know this is hard. Harder than anything. But we did this for a reason. You need to get better. Chance would want you to fight." Sam stared at him, eyes empty. "I don't want to fight anymore." Eli's heart fractured. He stood and walked to the window, unable to face his son's pain. Across town, Chance was experiencing his own shock. The world at the Donovan Race Academy was a whirlwind of noise, strangers, and dazzling horses. Nothing like the gentle routines of the Turner farm. His new stall was immaculate, but strange. The air heavy with the scent of expensive feed and leather saddles. Mr. Donovan watched him closely, recognizing both the power and the sadness in the Mustang's eyes. He had seen many horses come through his barn, but few carried such an aura. Wild but loyal, proud but gentle. "Let's give him some time," Donovan told his staff. "He's lost more than a home. He's lost his heart." Chance barely touched his feed that day. He stood at the edge of his stall, ears flicking at every noise, muscles tense. When a young stable hand reached out, Chance shied away, nostrils flaring, refusing the treat offered to him. He whinnied once, long, searching, almost mournful, the kind of sound that made the other horses pause in their chewing. Night came quickly at the academy. The lights went out. The stalls grew quiet. But Chance did not rest. He paced the length of his new home, his hooves thumping a restless pattern into the straw. He missed the simple rhythm of the Turner farm, the creak of the barn door, Sam's laughter, Eli's low humming while he worked. He longed for the boys' gentle touch, the whispered promises of races they'd win together. Underscore, 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 underscore. Back at the Turner house, Sam wandered into Chance's empty stall just before sunrise. The musty smell of hay and wood mixed with something sharper. Grief. He dropped to his knees, clutching a faded blue brush in his small hand. "Why'd you have to go, boy?" he whispered, tears falling. "Why couldn't things just stay the way they were?" Eli found him there, curled up beside the half-empty water trough, silent except for an occasional hiccup. He didn't try to move him. He simply sat nearby, lost in his own storm of regret. As the days slipped by, the absence grew. Sam stopped talking about the future. He slept more, coughed more, refused to leave his room except to sit by the window and stare toward the barn. The doctors called with updates, prescriptions, reminders, but their words fell on tired ears. The Turner home was becoming a house of ghosts. Eli tried to keep the farm running, but his heart wasn't in it. Every time he walked past the barn, every time he saw Sam staring at the empty paddock, the guilt ate at him. He'd made the only choice he could, but it felt like betrayal all the same. Underscore, 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 underscore. Meanwhile, at the race academy, Mr. Donovan took a special interest in Chance. He visited the stall each morning, speaking softly, offering treats, giving the Mustang space but not giving up. "You've got something special, don't you, boy?" he said one evening, leaning on the stall door. "A fire that won't go out, even if you try." Chance flicked his ears, listening, but turned away, eyes scanning the horizon, as if he could see all the way home. One afternoon, Donovan brought in his best jockey to try riding Chance. The Mustang allowed the saddle, tolerated the bridle, but when asked to move, he balked, refusing every command. It was as if his heart just wasn't in it. The staff began to whisper. "That horse is trouble," they said. "He's wild, stubborn. Maybe he's just not meant for racing." But Donovan saw more. He saw loyalty. He saw heartbreak. He made a promise to himself and to the horse quietly that he would not give up. There was more to this Mustang's story. Underscore, 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 underscore. Back on the farm, Eli lay awake, listening to Sam's shallow breaths, haunted by the memory of Chance's soft eyes and Sam's laughter. The pain of what he'd done pressed in from all sides. There had to be a way forward. There just had to. He prayed, something he hadn't done in years. "If there's any hope left, please, let us find it." And somewhere far away, in a stall filled with golden light, Chance lifted his head, ears flicking toward the invisible thread of love that bound him to home. Morning came like a gray shroud over the Turner farm, the sun hiding behind heavy clouds that pressed low against the earth. Days blurred into each other, marked not by hope, but by the slow ticking of the clock and the echoing absence in the barn. Eli went through the motions, feeding the chickens, mending fences. But each task felt hollow. The fields were growing wild. Weeds crept along the fence lines. The vegetable patch stood untended. The silence weighed on him, a constant reminder of everything that had been lost. Sam spent most of his days by his bedroom window, wrapped in an old quilt. His cheeks, once rosy from running with Chance, had grown pale and drawn. He watched the empty pasture for hours, his eyes searching for movement, for a flicker of a tail or the familiar rise of his Mustang's head over the gate. Each day without Chance was a day he felt weaker. The medicine was supposed to help, but it made him tired, dizzy, and irritable. Eli brought meals to his room, encouraging him to eat, but Sam only picked at his food, his appetite stolen by the ache in his chest. One afternoon, Eli tried to distract Sam with an old board game they used to play, sliding colorful pieces across the weathered cardboard. But the boy's heart wasn't in it. The game ended quickly, pieces abandoned on the table, both father and son left staring at the space where laughter used to fill the room. Afterward, Eli sat on the porch, head in his hands. He tried to tell himself he'd done the right thing, but doubt gnawed at him. The money from Chance's sale had paid for a round of treatments, but it was barely a dent in the bills. Worse, it seemed the cure had stolen the spirit from Sam, leaving behind a shadow. Nighttime was the worst. Sam's coughing would wake the house, echoing down the hallway, sharp and ragged. Eli would hurry to his side, sitting quietly until the fit passed, sometimes reading softly from Sam's favorite adventure book just to fill the silence. Sometimes he would find Sam clutching a faded photograph, himself astride Chance, grinning at the camera, the world wide and hopeful behind him. "Do you think he misses me?" Sam whispered once, voice trembling between breaths. Eli squeezed his hand. "I know he does. Horses don't forget, son. Not when they love you." Sam nodded, eyes closing, but a tear slipped down his cheek. Meanwhile, miles away, Chance was fighting his own battle. The race academy was filled with life, but it was the wrong kind. An endless bustle of trainers, horses, and shouting, with none of the warmth he'd known at the Turner farm. The food was plentiful, the stalls spotless, but nothing tasted right. He missed the smell of the fields, the creak of the barn door, the boys' gentle hands. At night, he stood in the corner of his stall, head down, barely touching the hay. The other horses were wary of him at first. His wild look, his refusal to join the herd, his strange, restless pacing. The staff tried everything: fresh apples, new blankets, even letting him out to graze. Still, Chance remained distant, his eyes scanning the horizon, ears flicking at every sound. When Mr. Donovan visited, speaking softly, Chance would watch him warily, but never drew near. "He's grieving," Donovan told his assistant, frowning. "You can't force a heart to heal." The other horses gradually accepted him, but Chance never joined their games in the paddock. When the trainers attempted to ride him, he stood stiff and uncooperative, refusing to trot or canter. His spirit dampened but not broken. One young handler, Maggie, took a particular interest, lingering by his stall with carrots and gentle words. Sometimes she'd just sit quietly and hum. And on those rare afternoons, Chance would close his eyes, letting the music wash over him, a distant echo of home. Still, at night, Chance would walk the perimeter of his stall, pausing to stare out the window, nostrils flaring as if searching for a scent only he could recognize. He had not forgotten the boy. Asterisk. Back at the Turner house, Eli tried to rally, to be strong for Sam. He called the doctor for updates, tried to negotiate payment plans, did extra work for neighbors when he could. But even his spirit was running thin. One evening, as he prepared a simple supper, he heard a crash from Sam's room. Rushing upstairs, he found his son on the floor, weak and shaking, the medicine bottle knocked from the nightstand. "I just wanted to see the sky," Sam murmured, his breath shallow. Eli helped him back to bed, holding back tears. "We'll open the window. We'll let the whole world in." After that, Eli kept Sam's window open whenever weather allowed. Sometimes he'd carry Sam outside, wrapping him in blankets and sitting with him on the porch, letting the evening breeze tangle through his hair. Together they'd watch the stars come out, Sam's gaze always drifting toward the barn, wishing. One night, Sam spoke so softly Eli had to lean in close to hear. "Dad, do you think Chance is happy there, at the race academy?" Eli searched for an answer. "I don't know, son. But I know he's brave, and I know he loves you. He'll remember." Sam nodded, silent tears sliding down his cheeks. Eli wished he could promise more, but the truth was, both boy and horse were drifting, lost and longing, two hearts tethered by memory and love. Asterisk. As the days stretched on, the emptiness seemed to take root in both the Turner house and at the race academy. Father and son grew quieter, the laughter that once filled their home replaced by a dull, aching silence. And miles away, Chance pressed his nose to the window, looking into the dark, the memory of home burning in his heart, like a distant, impossible dream. The sky had darkened by late afternoon, thick clouds piling up above the Turner farm until the world looked painted in blue and charcoal. The air was heavy, electric, as if waiting for something to break. Eli stood at the kitchen sink, watching rain threaten through the window, his hands wrapped around a mug grown cold long ago. Sam was upstairs, listless and coughing, barely awake since morning. Even the chickens had retreated to their coop, restless and uneasy. Lightning forked across the horizon, thunder rumbling so close it rattled the windows. The first fat drops hit the tin roof, drumming faster and harder until the house was lost in the roar of a full-blown summer storm. Eli glanced at the clock. Nearly midnight. He'd spent the evening coaxing Sam to sip broth, listening to the boy murmur about Chance in his sleep, wishing with every fiber that the storm would wash away the ache settling in their bones. Outside, the world was transformed by sheets of rain and wild, howling wind. Eli's thoughts wandered to the barn. Old habits died hard. He pictured himself braving the elements to make sure Chance was safe and dry, then remembered the empty stall, that blank space where hope used to live. Suddenly, the dogs began to bark, sharp, frantic, insistent. Eli's head snapped up. He turned off the lamp, the house falling instantly into shadow, except for the lightning that flashed white across the fields. Over the pounding rain, another sound broke through. A desperate, ragged drumming, hooves against soaked earth, wild and irregular, growing closer by the second. Eli's heart stuttered. He hurried to the porch, pulling a battered raincoat over his shoulders. The wind slapped at him, cold and furious, as he stared into the storm. For a heartbeat, there was nothing but rain and darkness. Then a shape burst from the night, soaked and staggering, mane plastered to his neck, sides heaving with exhaustion. Chance. The Mustang crashed through the gate, nearly slipping, then steadied himself and stumbled toward the barn, as if he'd been running for hours, running for his life. Eli rushed down the steps, boots sinking in the mud, unable to believe his eyes. "Chance, boy, is that you?" The horse stopped, nostrils flaring, eyes wide and wild. He let out a broken whinny, half cry, half greeting, and swayed where he stood. Eli reached for him, hands shaking. He felt the animal's wet coat, found a raw scrape along one flank, and a limp in his step. Chance's entire body trembled, muscles twitching with exhaustion and cold, but he pressed his head into Eli's chest, breath hot and desperate. Tears spilled from Eli's eyes. He led Chance into the barn, half carrying him, fumbling to get him dry and warm. All the while his mind reeled. How had Chance gotten free? How far had he run? And how had he found his way home through a storm like this? Eli worked by lantern light, rubbing the horse down with rough towels, checking for broken bones or deeper wounds. Chance flinched but stood steady, leaning on Eli as if the farmer's strength alone was enough to hold the world together. The storm raged on, thunder cracking overhead, but inside the barn, something close to peace began to bloom. Eli whispered words of comfort, voice breaking as he realized just how much he'd missed this simple ritual. For the first time in weeks, he felt a flicker of hope. He bolted for the house, mud splattered up his legs, heart pounding. Sam was still awake, propped up by pillows, eyes hollow and red-rimmed. Eli burst into the room, barely able to form the words. "Sam, come on, hurry, he's back! Chance is back!" Sam stared, disbelief and shock fighting on his face. "No, Dad, are you sure?" Eli nodded, grabbing a coat and boots for his son. He carried Sam out into the storm, shielding him as best he could. When they reached the barn, Sam's breath caught in his throat. Chance raised his head, ears pricked forward, and let out a soft nicker. Sam reached out with trembling hands, his cough momentarily forgotten, and touched the Mustang's muzzle. For a moment, time stopped. The storm faded into background noise. Boy and horse looked at each other, an unspoken promise shimmering between them. "Hey, buddy," Sam whispered. "I missed you so much." Chance pressed closer, his large brown eyes gentle and full of love. Sam laughed, an honest, joyful sound Eli hadn't heard in weeks. "I knew you'd come back. I knew it." Eli blinked back tears, watching his son's cheeks flush with color for the first time in so long. The boy's voice grew steadier, stronger, as he stroked Chance's mane. "See, Dad, he didn't forget me." "No, son," Eli choked. "He could never forget you." The three of them stayed in the barn for hours, the storm finally moving on, leaving behind a new hush broken only by the soft sounds of reunion. Eli cleaned Chance's wounds as best he could, promising to call the vet first thing in the morning. He wrapped Sam in blankets and let him curl up in the straw beside his best friend, a scene so familiar it felt like a dream. Later, back inside, Eli caught a glimpse of himself in the bathroom mirror, hair wild, face streaked with mud and tears. He looked exhausted, but underneath the fatigue something new shone in his eyes. Maybe, just maybe, this was the break they'd prayed for. That night, for the first time in weeks, Sam fell asleep without coughing fits or nightmares. Chance's return like a balm on his spirit. Even his breathing seemed easier, his face more peaceful. Eli watched him sleep, gratitude and relief flooding every inch of him. Still, worry hovered at the edges. What would happen when Donovan discovered Chance was gone? Would there be legal trouble, more debt, another blow to their fragile hope? Eli didn't know. But for now, he chose to believe in the miracle standing in his barn and the healing that came with the return of something once thought lost forever. As dawn crept over the horizon, the storm was gone, but the world felt changed, a little brighter, a little more alive. And somewhere in the quiet, a promise had been renewed. Hope, like love, could always find its way home. The morning after the storm dawned sharp and golden. The air scrubbed clean and cool, sunlight glinting on puddles across the Turner farm. Eli awoke in his armchair, stiff and aching, but lighter in spirit than he'd felt in months. He tiptoed to Sam's room and found his son already awake, curled beside the window, cheeks flushed, eyes sparkling with hope he thought he'd lost forever. "Morning, Dad," Sam whispered, grinning. "Morning, buddy. How do you feel?" Sam pressed his hand to his chest, testing his breathing, then offered a shy smile. "Better, way better. It's like I can breathe again." Eli knelt beside him, heart pounding. "That's good, son. That's real good." Breakfast was simple: toast, scrambled eggs, a little fruit. But Sam finished every bite, his appetite as restored as his spirit. Eli glanced at the barn, still half expecting to find Chance gone, but the Mustang was right where they'd left him, munching contentedly on hay. The connection between Sam and Chance seemed to have worked a miracle no medicine ever could. But reality was already knocking at their door. Mid-morning, as Eli raked straw in the barn, a dust cloud appeared on the lane, a black pickup barreling toward them. Eli's gut twisted. He knew that truck. He knew this moment was inevitable. Mr. Donovan stepped out, crisp and businesslike in a pressed shirt, his sharp eyes scanning the yard. He looked more wary than angry, but there was no mistaking the tension in his posture. Eli swallowed hard and met him halfway, hands raised in peace. "Mr. Donovan, I can explain." Donovan cut him off, voice cool but not unkind. "Save it. I'm not here for a fight. Where's the horse?" Before Eli could answer, Sam appeared in the barn doorway, one hand resting on Chance's neck. The boy stood tall, fragile, yes, but stronger than he had in weeks, an unspoken courage shining in his eyes. Chance's ears flicked as Donovan approached, but the Mustang did not shy away. Instead, he stepped forward, placing himself between Sam and the stranger, as if to shield the boy from whatever trouble was coming. Donovan studied the pair, his practiced gaze softening as he took in the battered, mud-splattered horse and the pale, smiling child. For a long moment, the only sound was the wind rustling through the hay. "Is he all right?" Donovan finally asked, his tone gentler. Eli nodded. "He ran all the way home, through the worst storm I've seen in years. He's scraped up, but he'll heal. He just wanted to come home." Sam's grip tightened on Chance's mane. "He missed us. He saved me, Mr. Donovan. He really did." Donovan crouched down, eye level with Sam. "You care about him, don't you?" Sam nodded, fierce and silent. Donovan turned to Eli, his businesslike air cracking just a little. "I was furious when I found him gone. But then I heard about the storm. I tracked his path, miles through mud and wire and roads he's never seen. I thought I'd find a wrecked horse. Instead, I find this." Eli braced for a lecture, for threats of lawyers and police. But Donovan only sighed and looked around at the humble barn, the patched fences, the faint smell of hope hanging in the air. "I'm not a hard man, Mr. Turner. I bought that Mustang because I thought he'd make a champion. I never realized he already was one." Sam blinked, hope flaring in his eyes. Donovan straightened, dusted his hands on his jeans. "I came here ready to take him back. But maybe he's already where he belongs." Eli exhaled, relief flooding through him. But Donovan wasn't finished. He turned to Sam, a glint of challenge in his eyes. "Tell me, son, do you want to race Chance? I mean really race him, in front of the whole town?" Sam's breath caught. "Me? But I'm not strong enough. And the medicine." Donovan shook his head. "Strength isn't always about muscle, kid. Sometimes it's about heart. That horse risked everything to get here. And I figure, if he and you want to race, who am I to stand in your way?" Eli stared, barely able to believe what he was hearing. "What about the money? The entry fees, the training?" Donovan shrugged. "I'll sponsor you. If Chance wins, you keep the prize money. Use it for Sam's treatment. And win or lose, nobody's taking that horse from you again." Sam's face lit up with hope and disbelief. "You really mean it? We could race together?" Donovan smiled, a small, genuine smile. "I do, but it's going to be hard. You'll need to train every day. You'll have to fight for it. Think you can handle that?" Sam looked at Chance, who nuzzled his shoulder, as if answering for both of them. "Yes, we can do it. Right, boy?" Chance stamped a hoof, tossing his mane. Eli laughed, a real laugh, rich and free. Donovan watched them, his expression unreadable, but something like pride flickered in his eyes. "I'll be back tomorrow with the paperwork and some gear," Donovan said. "You rest up, Sam. We start training in 2 days." As the truck rolled away, Eli hugged his son tight, overcome by gratitude. "This is your second chance, Sam, for both of you." That night, as Sam and Chance dozed together in the straw, Eli sat on the porch and watched the stars. The pain and guilt of the past weeks hadn't vanished, but for the first time, the path forward didn't seem so dark. Maybe, just maybe, hope had come home to stay. Sunlight poured across the Turner farm the next morning, casting everything in a hopeful, new glow. The world looked brighter somehow, the colors sharper, as if the universe itself was cheering Sam on. Eli rose early, filled with nervous anticipation, and found Sam already dressed, sitting by the window with a determined glint in his eyes. "Ready for training?" Eli asked, unable to hide his smile. Sam nodded, his thin face set with resolve. "I want to win, Dad. Not just for me, for Chance, for you, for all of us." Eli ruffled his hair, pride welling in his chest. "That's my boy." Mr. Donovan arrived just after breakfast, his truck loaded with gear, saddles, helmets, boots, training cones, and even a stack of old racing magazines for inspiration. He brought a clipboard and a notebook full of schedules, jotting down goals and strategies. For a moment, Eli felt overwhelmed, but Donovan's calm, no-nonsense manner helped settle his nerves. "First things first," Donovan said, spreading out the training gear by the barn. "We've got to start slow. Sam, you'll need to build up your strength. It's about consistency, not speed." Sam listened carefully, his hands shaking slightly with excitement. Chance, sensing the new energy, pranced in the paddock, tossing his head and pawing the ground. Even the other farm animals seemed to notice the change, gathering near the fence as if to watch. The first session was simple, just walking Chance in circles, getting Sam used to the saddle again, and letting horse and rider relearn each other's rhythms. Every few steps, Eli or Donovan would check on Sam, making sure he didn't get too tired. Sam's breathing was ragged, and sweat beaded on his brow, but he refused to give up. After an hour, Donovan called for a break. Sam slid from the saddle, his legs shaking, but a wide grin stretched across his face. "We did it, Dad." He remembered everything. Eli gave him a water bottle, hiding his worry behind a cheerful smile. "Pace yourself, Sam. Tomorrow's another day." For the next week, the farm settled into a new rhythm. Mornings began with gentle rides, progressing to longer sessions with trotting and short sprints. Donovan watched closely, correcting Sam's posture, encouraging him to listen to Chance's cues, and teaching him to breathe in sync with the horse's movements. The process was grueling. Sam's illness never let him forget its presence, and there were days when he could barely stand after a ride. But there were moments of pure joy, too, like when Chance nuzzled Sam's shoulder after a successful trot, or when the wind caught the boy's hair and made him laugh for the first time in ages. Each triumph, no matter how small, was a victory over doubt. News spread quickly through town. Curious neighbors wandered by, peeking over the fence, offering encouragement or skepticism. "Isn't he too sick to ride?" one neighbor whispered. Eli bristled, but Sam held his head high, refusing to let doubt cloud his newfound purpose. Some days the training was interrupted by setbacks. Sam's cough would flare up unexpectedly, forcing them to stop early. Other times, Chance would spook at a sudden noise, reminding them he was still half wild at heart. Once, a sudden summer rain soaked the paddock, turning practice into a muddy mess. But every time, Sam would wipe his face, take a deep breath, and start again. One evening, after a particularly tough session, Sam slumped on the barn steps, exhausted. Chance stood beside him, nudging his hand with a warm, velvety nose. "I don't know if I can do it, Dad," Sam whispered, voice trembling. "What if I'm not strong enough?" Eli sat beside him, pulling the boy into a gentle hug. "You're the bravest kid I know. It's okay to be scared, but you don't have to do this alone. We're all here for you. Me, Chance, even Mr. Donovan." Sam leaned against his father, silent for a moment, listening to the horse's steady breaths. Donovan joined them, kneeling so his face was level with Sam's. "You're not just racing for yourself, Sam. You're racing for every kid who's ever felt like giving up. Every family who's ever faced something bigger than they could handle. You've already won more than most people ever do." Sam nodded, eyes shining with renewed determination. "I want to keep going." Training continued. Each morning, Sam grew a little stronger. He learned to ride with precision, guiding Chance with gentle hands and quiet words. Donovan introduced new drills, tight turns, starts and stops, pacing for endurance. Eli watched with pride as Sam and Chance developed a language of their own, boy and horse moving as one. The town began to rally too. Mrs. Parker, their closest neighbor, brought over homemade cookies and hot tea. Mr. Harris from the feed store donated a fresh bag of oats for Chance. Even old Mr. Dalton, who rarely spoke more than a word at a time, nodded his approval as he passed the farm. But not everyone was supportive. Some folks muttered that it was foolish, that the boy was too sick and the horse too wild. Whispers reached Eli's ears at the general store. Rumors about how this was just a sad spectacle, a family chasing impossible dreams. Eli let it go, choosing instead to focus on the fire growing in his son's eyes. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the world gold, Sam and Chance completed a full circuit of the paddock at a canter. Sam sat tall in the saddle, hair flying, a smile breaking through the sweat and exhaustion. "Did you see that, Dad?" Sam called, triumphant. Eli cheered, tears prickling at his eyes. "I saw, Sam. You looked like you were flying." Donovan nodded, a rare smile on his face. "That's the spirit. Race day's coming. I think you'll be ready." Sam slid down and wrapped his arms around Chance's neck, burying his face in the horse's mane. For that moment, nothing else mattered. No illness, no whispers, no fear. Just hope, pounding as steady as a heartbeat, echoing across the fields and out into the world. As race day approached, anticipation and anxiety mingled at the Turner farm, turning every sunrise into a countdown. Training had become the heartbeat of their days. But beneath the hope, worry simmered about Sam's health, about the competition, about the weight of so many dreams resting on one Mustang and one determined boy. Word had spread far beyond their small town. People came from neighboring communities, some offering encouragement, others just hungry for gossip. Some called Sam the miracle kid. Others whispered that it was foolish for a sick child to race. Eli shielded Sam from the harshest words, but the family felt the pressure mounting with every passing day. Donovan grew more intense, pushing Sam and Chance a little harder each session. The routines became tougher. Longer sprints, sharper turns, more challenging drills. Sam gave everything, but at night he collapsed into bed, too tired to eat or talk, his chest heaving with the effort. Chance, too, seemed drained, sweat darkening his coat after each ride. Still, Sam refused to slow down. He clung to the hope that winning this race would mean a real shot at healing, and at keeping Chance for good. Then, 3 nights before the big event, something changed. It started with a restless feeling that Eli couldn't shake. The wind howled outside, rattling the old barn doors. The dogs barked at nothing, refusing to settle. Eli peered out into the dark, nerves prickling at the back of his neck. Suddenly, a sharp noise, like metal clanging against wood, rang out from the direction of the barn. Eli jumped up, pulling on his boots and grabbing a flashlight. He hurried outside, Sam right behind him, each step sinking into the soft earth left by days of summer storms. As they approached the barn, Eli's heart pounded. The paddock gate hung open, swinging on its hinges. Chance was nowhere in sight. Panic flared, until they heard a frantic snort from behind the tool shed. They found Chance trembling, nostrils flaring, eyes wide with terror. "Easy, boy. Easy," Eli murmured, moving slowly, hands out in comfort. Sam knelt beside his horse, stroking his neck, whispering soothing words. Gradually, Chance's shivers subsided, but the Mustang kept glancing at the shadows, muscles tense, every sense on high alert. Eli scanned the barn and paddock. In the moonlight, he saw footprints in the mud, too small to be his own, too narrow for Sam's. A chill crept up his spine. Someone had been here. Someone who wanted to spook Chance. He looked at Sam, whose face was pale but angry. "Who would do this?" Eli shook his head, jaw tight. "Some folks don't want to see us win, son. Not everyone has a good heart." Sam bit his lip, refusing to let fear take root. "Well, we're not quitting. Are we, Chance?" The Mustang snorted, as if in agreement. Eli fixed the gate and double-checked every latch and lock before leading Sam back inside. Neither slept much that night. Eli sat by the window, shotgun across his lap, watching for headlights or movement. Sam clutched a picture of him and Chance under his pillow, determined not to let anyone steal his hope. The next day, Donovan arrived early, reading the worry on their faces. Eli pulled him aside, voice low. "Someone tried to mess with Chance last night. Tried to scare him. Maybe worse." Donovan's jaw clenched. "There's always someone looking to stack the deck. I'll keep an eye out at the stables. Don't let it shake you." But it had shaken them. That afternoon, Chance balked during training, spooking at a flapping tarp and shying from shadows. Sam did his best to stay calm, but the Mustang's anxiety fed his own. The drills fell apart. Donovan finally called a halt. "We're not going to force this," he said, voice firm but gentle. "You both need rest. Take the afternoon. Try to clear your heads." Sam spent the rest of the day brushing Chance, whispering encouragement. Eli watched, worry mounting, He could see how much Sam was struggling, not just with fear, but with fatigue. The stress of the upcoming race, the training, the near sabotage. It was too much for any child, let alone one so sick. That night, Sam's cough returned, worse than it had been in weeks. He couldn't catch his breath. Eli rushed to his side, heart thundering as he helped Sam sit up, rubbed his back, counted every precious inhale. Sam's face was drawn and gray, sweat beading on his brow. "I can't do it, Dad," he choked out between coughs. "I can't race, I'm too weak." Eli's heart broke at the words. He cradled his son, willing strength into him, hating the helplessness. "You've already done more than anyone thought you could, Sam," Eli whispered. "If you want to stop, we'll stop. I just want you safe." Tears streamed down Sam's cheeks. "But if I quit, we lose everything. Chance, the money, everything." Eli shook his head, voice breaking. "No, son, we never lose everything. Not as long as we have each other." The next morning, Sam and Eli sat in the barn, both silent, both exhausted. Chance rested his head in Sam's lap, unmoving, as if he too sensed the heaviness that had settled over them. Hours passed like this, neither speaking. The future seemed as uncertain as the stormy sky outside. But that evening, something changed. After a long silence, Sam dragged himself to his feet and leaned against Chance, eyes closed. "I just want one more night," Sam murmured, voice raw, "with my best friend. No racing, no training. Just us." Eli nodded and brought out a blanket. The three of them sat together in the stall, father, son, and horse, watching the sun set through the barn window. The stillness was a comfort. Sam whispered stories to Chance, and the horse nickered softly, every so often nudging Sam's hand. By the time the stars appeared, Sam's breathing was easier. His fears had eased, if only a little, in the quiet presence of his family. "We can do this, Dad," he finally said, voice steadier. "Chance and me. We're not done yet." Eli smiled through tears, hope rekindling. Tomorrow they would try again, and somewhere in the dark, the shadows shrank away, not from strength alone, but from the unbreakable bond between a boy and his horse. Dawn broke bright and cool, the world still and new under a pale blue sky. The entire Turner house hummed with a tense, nervous energy. Sam barely slept the night before, his mind spinning with hope and worry. But when the first rays of sunlight hit his window, he was already up, buttoning his shirt with trembling hands. Eli made breakfast, though neither of them ate much. Toast picked apart, orange juice left half-finished. All that mattered was what came next. By mid-morning, trucks and trailers rumbled down every country road toward the county fairgrounds. The small town seemed to empty out, every face eager for the excitement of the annual summer race. Sam watched from the passenger seat as Eli drove, the fairgrounds appearing over the next hill, a patchwork of tents, banners, food stands, and the long oval track carved into the earth. Donovan met them at the entrance, all business, but his smile betrayed a hint of pride and excitement. "You two ready?" Sam nodded, trying to look braver than he felt. Chance, in the trailer behind them, let out a restless nicker. His coat gleamed after Eli and Sam spent hours brushing him the night before. He moved with the same wild energy he'd always had, but this morning there was something steadier in his stride, almost as if he knew the importance of what lay ahead. As they unloaded Chance, people stopped and stared. Some recognized the Mustang. "That's the Turner boys' horse," while others whispered about the sick kid who dared to enter the biggest race in the county. Sam tried not to listen, focusing on Chance, stroking his nose and whispering, "We're here, buddy. Just you and me." The competitors were lined up near the track. Young riders from local stables, a couple of tough-looking teens from the next town, even a girl whose family bred thoroughbreds for a living. The field was stacked with favorites, kids who had trained their whole lives for this day. Sam felt his stomach twist with nerves, but every time he glanced at Chance, the horse's calm, deep eyes settled him. Donovan took Sam aside. "Remember, you don't have to win for this to mean something. You've already beaten more than any of them ever will." Sam nodded, swallowing his fear. "We're going to do our best. That's enough." As the sun climbed higher, the grandstands filled with spectators, families waving banners, little kids on their fathers' shoulders, vendors selling lemonade and popcorn. Eli took a seat near the finish line, his hands clenched tight in his lap, barely able to breathe. It was finally time. Sam led Chance toward the start, the noise of the crowd swelling all around him. Donovan walked beside him, checking the saddle, tightening the girth, making sure everything was safe. "Deep breath, Sam. Feel Chance's rhythm. You two are a team." Sam nodded. He swung up onto Chance's back, settling into the saddle. He could feel his heart pounding, but he focused on his breathing, steadying his hands on the reins. The other riders mounted up, and a hush fell over the crowd as the announcer's voice boomed from the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Riders, take your mark." The starter's flag dropped. They were off. The first stretch was a blur of hooves and dust. Chance exploded from the line with raw, wild energy, surging ahead before settling into a steady pace. Sam leaned low, pressing close to Chance's neck, letting the rhythm of the horse's stride wash over him. The favorites took an early lead, 2 thoroughbreds, their riders hunched and determined, tearing down the track with practiced precision. Chance and Sam fell behind, the Mustang's unfamiliarity with the track showing in his cautious steps around the first curve. Donovan's voice echoed in Sam's memory. "Don't panic. Find your rhythm. Trust each other." Sam took a deep breath and whispered, "You can do this, boy. We know how to run together." Chance's ears flicked back, and something shifted between them. The horse found his stride, pushing harder with each step, his muscles bunching and releasing in perfect harmony. The field began to stretch out. Some riders faded, their horses tiring under the hot sun. Sam and Chance worked their way up from the back, overtaking 1, then 2, then 3 competitors as they found their speed. The crowd noticed and began to cheer, a growing wave of excitement building with each length gained. Sam's lungs burned, sweat ran down his face. But he didn't slow, couldn't slow, not now, not after everything they'd overcome. Halfway through the final lap, disaster nearly struck. One of the favorites cut too close on the inside, his horse stumbling into Chance's path. For a split second, everything seemed to hang in the air. Sam felt Chance falter, his heart leaping to his throat. "Easy! Steady!" Sam called, gripping the reins. Chance responded with a burst of power, sidestepping the trouble, regaining balance, and launching forward like he'd found a new gear. The crowd roared. Sam heard Eli's voice, "Go, Sam! Go, Chance!" above the din. Now only one rider was ahead, a tall girl on a gleaming chestnut. The finish line beckoned, a white ribbon shimmering in the sun. Sam urged Chance on, feeling every ounce of the Mustang's will, every drop of his own hope and longing pouring into the race. In the final stretch, horse and boy moved as one. The world narrowed to the thunder of hooves, the wind in his ears, the pounding of his heart. They drew even with the leader, then, inch by inch, surged ahead. The ribbon broke across Chance's chest. The crowd erupted. Sam blinked, hardly believing what had happened. He'd done it. They'd done it. Eli rushed to the track, tears running down his cheeks as he hugged his son tight. Chance nudging both of them with his nose, prancing with pride. Donovan found them, his face split in a grin. "You two were magnificent." Sam gasped for breath, overwhelmed, but his smile was brighter than the midday sun. "We won, Dad! Chance did it!" Eli choked back his tears, holding Sam close. "No, son, you both did." The prize was theirs, but what mattered most wasn't the trophy or the money. It was the sense of triumph, the feeling of having overcome the impossible, the knowledge that hope could truly find its way home. As the crowd celebrated, Sam wrapped his arms around Chance's neck, whispering words of love and gratitude, knowing this was a moment neither of them would ever forget. The days following the race unfolded in a golden haze of relief and celebration, the kind that lingers long after the cheering has faded. The Turner farm, once a quiet place haunted by uncertainty, now buzzed with visitors, laughter, and hope as bright as the sun that warmed the fields. For the first time in months, Sam slept soundly. No nightmares, no coughing fits to break the night. Each morning, Eli would find him already awake, a faint smile on his lips, his arms thrown across his pillow like a boy at peace with the world. Chance, never far away, grazed just outside Sam's window, his head snapping up whenever Sam called, his eyes full of devotion. The prize money, the kind that had once seemed like a distant dream, was now real, a check waiting on the kitchen table. Eli drove Sam to the hospital the following week. The check clutched tightly in his hand, his heart pounding with gratitude and fear. The doctors greeted them with cautious optimism, explaining every detail of the treatment, the risks, the hope it offered. Sam squeezed his father's hand through every test and needle, braver than Eli could ever have imagined. As the days passed, the treatment began to work its quiet magic. Sam's cheeks regained their color. His voice grew stronger, clearer, more alive. Even the nurses, who had grown used to his tired eyes and quiet demeanor, remarked on the transformation. "He's like a new boy," one nurse said, smiling at Eli as she adjusted Sam's IV. "Whatever you're doing, keep it up." Eli blinked back tears. For so long he had prayed for a miracle. Now, as he watched his son slowly heal, it felt like he was finally living inside one. News of Sam's victory and his recovery spread throughout the community. People who had once whispered doubts and cast skeptical glances now arrived at the Turner door with casseroles, cards, and even offers to help fix the battered fences. Mrs. Parker, who lived down the road, organized a meal train so Eli could focus on Sam instead of chores. The feed store delivered extra hay for Chance, a gift from the townsfolk. Neighbors gathered around the porch in the evenings, sharing stories, laughter, and the kind of warmth that had felt lost for too long. For the first time, Eli truly felt surrounded, not by hardship, but by the bonds of community. One Saturday morning, the mayor himself stopped by with a photographer from the local paper. "We'd like to do a feature on Sam," he said, smiling as Sam shyly posed with Chance for the camera. "He's inspired everyone. Folks need good news these days." Sam grinned, one hand tangled in Chance's mane, the other resting on the Mustang's strong shoulder. "He's the real hero," Sam said, looking into the horse's eyes. "I just held on." The article ran in the Sunday edition, the front page filled with a photo of Sam and Chance against the backdrop of the Turner farm. "Local boy and Mustang win against all odds," the headline declared. It was clipped and saved by nearly every family in town. As the weeks rolled on, the Turner farm began to thrive in ways Eli had never expected. The vegetable garden, neglected for months, burst into bloom as neighbors helped plant and weed. The barn, once empty and echoing, rang with the laughter of children eager to meet Chance, to hear Sam's story, to believe that maybe, just maybe, Miracles were possible for them too. Donovan visited often, sometimes bringing a new set of training cones or just to check in on Sam's progress. He and Eli would sit on the porch, sharing quiet conversations about horses, hope, and the unexpected turns life can take. "You've got grit, Eli," Donovan said one afternoon, sipping iced tea. "And that boy of yours, he's something special." Eli nodded, watching Sam and Chance race through the pasture, laughter carried on the breeze. "He's my miracle." For the first time in a long time, Eli allowed himself to dream of a future where the farm would prosper, where Sam would ride and race again, where hope would outlast any hardship. Sam's recovery wasn't always easy. There were days when the treatment made him tired, days when fear crept in, whispering old doubts. But every time he looked out at the paddock and saw Chance grazing, every time he heard the encouragement of neighbors, every time he felt his father's steady hand, he remembered what they had overcome. He began to talk about the future in ways he never had before, about going back to school, about teaching other kids to ride, about raising money for families like his own who struggled to pay for treatment. The dreams grew bigger each day. "I want to help sick kids," Sam told Eli one night, lying on the porch under a blanket of stars. "And horses like Chance, too. There's so many out there who just need a second chance." Eli smiled, tears shining in his eyes. "You already are, son." The town started a small fund in Sam's honor, calling it the Turner Hope Fund, to help others facing impossible odds. Local businesses chipped in. Children donated spare change. It wasn't much, but it was enough to show that the community had been changed by one boy's courage, and by the wild heart of a Mustang who refused to give up. The Turner farm was no longer just a symbol of struggle. It became a place where hope was planted, nurtured, and allowed to grow. And every morning, as the sun rose over the fields, Eli and Sam stood by the fence watching Chance gallop through the dew, the sound of his hooves echoing the heartbeat of a family and a town reborn. Summer ripened into fall, painting the Turner farm with gold and scarlet, the fields glowing under a sky so blue it hurt to look at. Life had settled into a new, beautiful rhythm, one stitched together with lessons hard won and love tested by storms. Sam was stronger every week, running through the yard, his laughter rising with the wind. Chance, with his wild mane and watchful eyes, was never far behind. Where once the future felt like a locked gate, now every sunrise promised another chance to run free. Eli often found himself pausing on the porch in the early mornings, mug in hand, watching Sam and Chance racing through the dew-damp pasture. Sometimes neighbors stopped to watch too, lingering at the fence with their own children, pointing out how the Mustang and the boy moved as one, every stride a quiet miracle. But as much as the Turner family rejoiced in their newfound peace, Eli knew the greatest change was something deeper, something only hardship could teach, a truth he wanted Sam to carry forever. One Sunday evening, Eli called Sam to the porch. The sky was streaked with pink and orange, the world hushed except for the gentle creak of the porch swing. Sam climbed up beside his father, tucking his knees to his chest. "Dad," he asked, voice soft as the dusk, "do you ever wish things had been easier?" Eli smiled, pulling Sam close. "I used to, son. When you were sick, when I sold Chance, all I could think about was how unfair it all felt. I would have given anything for a simpler road." Sam nodded, quiet, watching a breeze stir the tall grass. "But then I realized something," Eli continued. "Sometimes, the hardest roads lead us home. If I hadn't been willing to let go of what I loved most, I never would have known how strong we really are. We found our way through, not because we never lost hope, but because we kept finding it again and again. even when it seemed gone. Sam leaned against him, letting the words sink in. Do you think Chance knew that we needed him so much? Eli looked out over the fields where Chance grazed, tail flicking in the last light. I think animals like Chance, they know more about love and loyalty than most people ever will. He came back to us because he knew he belonged here, and because you never gave up on him. For a while, neither spoke. The silence between them was gentle, full of gratitude. Finally, Sam said, I want to help other kids, Dad, and horses too. There's so many out there who are scared or lost. Maybe we could, I don't know, give them a home or hope. Eli squeezed his shoulder. I think that's a wonderful idea, son. Real victory isn't about winning a race. It's about what we do with our blessings after. Over the weeks that followed, Sam and Eli poured their hearts into the farm, opening their doors to children who needed a place to heal, to horses that others had given up on. What started as a small project soon grew. Neighbors volunteered, bringing old saddles and bags of feed. Teachers sent kids who needed a little kindness. Local businesses donated supplies. The Turner Hope Fund helped cover treatments for families struggling to pay their bills. Kids came from all over, some scared and shy, others angry or hurt. But on the Turner farm, they found a safe place. Sam taught them to brush Chance, to move gently, to trust. Under his care, even the wildest horses learned to accept a steady hand. The barn was no longer a place of emptiness, but one of laughter and fresh beginnings. Eli watched it all unfold, pride and humility swelling inside him. He remembered nights spent fearing the worst, now replaced by the light of hope flickering in the eyes of every child who stepped onto their land. One afternoon, as a group of children gathered by the fence, Eli called Sam over, handing him a weathered notebook. What's this? Sam asked, turning it over. Something for you to keep, a place to write the names of every kid and horse you help, a reminder that what we do here matters, even when it feels small. Sam grinned, already flipping through the pages. I'm going to fill this whole thing, Dad. I know you will. The story of the Turner farm spread beyond their small town. Newspapers ran updates. Local TV crews came out to film the remarkable bond between Sam and Chance, between the family and the community. Letters poured in, some from families who needed help, some from people inspired to start their own rescue projects. The world, it seemed, was hungry for stories of hope and second chances. Still, Eli made sure Sam remembered the lesson at the heart of their journey. One crisp evening, as stars bloomed overhead, Eli wrapped an arm around his son and spoke softly. True love means risking everything for someone you care about. Sometimes what you give up finds its way home in ways you could never imagine. We lost so much, but we found each other again, stronger than before. That's the real victory. Sam nodded, quiet and wise. We don't give up on each other. That's what makes a family. That's what brings hope home. Chance became a legend in the county. Children drew pictures of him. Riders asked for tips. Neighbors stopped by just to watch him thunder across the pasture. But to Sam, Chance was always just his best friend, a symbol of all they had endured and everything they had gained. The Turner family's life was never perfect, but it was richer and fuller than Eli could have dreamed. They had lost and learned and loved their way to a better tomorrow. And as the years slipped by, Eli's words became the closing line to every visitor, every struggling neighbor, every hopeful child who came to their door. If this story touched you, remember, hope finds a way home when we don't give up on each other. And under the vast, open sky, On a farm that once echoed with silence, hope ran wild. Forever home, forever free.